نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله عز وجل وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدع وكل بدعة دلالة وكل دلالة في النار. أما بعد, we continue, alhamdulillah, by Allah's blessings, a study of the book Kitab at-Tawheed with explanation Qawl al-Mufid by the great Shaykh Allama Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala on the 22nd of Muharram in the year 1441 al-Hijrah, corresponding to 21st of September in 2019. We're continuing, this is lesson number 25, and we're continuing with the chapter about Ruqya. The chapter what is mentioned regarding Ruqya and Tama'im, amulets and these type of aspects. And today, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, hopefully we'll try to cover as much as we can for the rest of the chapter. And we're talking about here the second evidence that Muhammad ibn Abdul-Wahhāb rahimahullah brings regarding the evidence about Ruqya, what is mentioned about Ruqya and Tama'im. And this is the hadith which is authentic. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah authenticated this hadith, which is narrated by Imam Ahmad and at-Tirmidhi. And the hadith is from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, who said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, Inna ruqa wa tama'im wa tiwala min ash-shirk, aw shirkun. Inna ruqa wa tama'im wa tiwala shirkun. That indeed ruqya and tama'im, these amulets, and tiwala, a form of magic used to cause the husband to love the wife and the wife to love the husband, are shirk. And this is narrated from Imam Ahmad and Abu Dawood. The word ruqya here, in the ruqya here, Shaykh Uthaymeen goes on to speak about this, and he said, this is not an absolute way. The ruqya is not in the absolute way. Rather, it's in a specific way, because ruqya has been made permissible from the Sharia. The ruqya, which is made permissible by the Sharia. As we know from the Shaykh Uthaymeen mentions, and that it's not from shirk. For example, when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about Surah Fatiha, and what made you think it was from ruqya? The hadith, which is mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim. So here we know that there is a type of ruqya which is permissible, and a type of ruqya which is shirk, which is not permissible. The permissible one is the one which has, we mentioned before about its conditions, that it has to be something from the Quran and the Sunnah, or a good dua, or that it should have a meaning, a good meaning. The meaning should be understood. The meaning of these words should be understood, and that they are a form or means for the cure. That they in themselves are not the cure, but they are the means for the cure, and Allah is the one who cures. So when people make up words and phrases which have no meaning to them whatsoever, then this is not permissible to be used as ruqya. So here the Shaykh goes on to talk about here that the intent here of this hadith, that in ruqya shirk, it talks about the one that is not permissible, ruqya that which is not permissible. So here so the Shaykh just brings the point saying that the speech of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not contradict some of it with others. Yeah, some of the speech doesn't contradict other parts of the speech of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is a clear point that we understand from the Quran and from the Sunnah, because there are people who have diseases in their hearts, and they take one ayah or take one hadith, and they strike another hadith with it, and they say, see, this is a contradiction. But no, in the religion of Islam, there are sciences which show that there are matters which are abrogated, there are matters which abrogate specific, general. There's lots of these sciences in Islam which show us with other proofs and evidences that which is specific, that which is general, that which has been abrogated, and likewise. So here, this aspect of ruqya, yani that is shirk, is the type where it's yani not permissible. So when somebody does ruqya with words which are not understood, then this is not permissible. It's not permissible. Or somebody does ruqya with some other means, then this is not permissible. Okay, other than from the Quran and the Sunnah, and using good eligible phrases and terms like dua, may Allah cure you, and these type of things. Then the hadith goes on to mention about tama'im, amulets. And Shaykh Uthaymeen says that the author, the compiler, Muhammad Abdul-Wahhāb, explained this. He says that it's something which is attached to children to protect them from the evil eye. And this is from shirk. Because, Shaykh Uthaymeen says, because the legislator, yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shari', Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has not made this as a means as a protection from evil eye. He's not placed this, as mentioned this as a means to protect a person from evil eye, because of the unseen, something matter of the unseen. So it's not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't make it permissible for us to do these type of things. And the problem is because the people, they become attached to these things. They become attached to these amulets and superstitions and all these type of matters. They become attached to them. So the Shaykh says, if a person dresses his children in clothes which are shabby, worn out, fearing the evil eye, is this permissible? The Shaykh says, the apparent of this is that it's not permissible. Oh, sorry, that is nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Because he hasn't done anything. And he hasn't left anything. And Shaykh, he goes on to talk about how Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah spoke about this. But however, regarding this, a person shouldn't go to extremes. This is where the problems lie, especially with people who don't understand or have limited knowledge or limited experience. They start going to extremes in these issues. Okay, going to extreme in these issues, and whereby they start affecting their children and their families. For example, a person can be a real zahid, and to just give you a similitude. He's a real zahid. He's a very simple person in the sense of he doesn't like the allure of this world. He doesn't like the showing off of this world, and he doesn't like to have lots of clothing. Okay, so he has a few pieces of clothing, right? A few thobes and a few whatever. But his wife, and as we know, women, they love clothing. They love, to dress up for their husbands and stuff, and they love clothing. So a person shouldn't compete with his wife and say, see, what's wrong with you? Look at me, I'm better than you because I've got less, because I'm zahid. I'm somebody who's not chasing after the dunya or anything like that. This is not good. This is not good. This is not something which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, we should spend on our families, obviously not going to extremes, buying them good clothing, buying them good things, and in that in itself is reward for the Muslim. Okay, a reward for the Muslim. But if a person says, well, look, if I dress my children in really fancy clothing, we're not talking about fancy clothing, we're talking about good clothing. No, I want them to wear shabby clothing so then, nobody gives them the evil eye. No, it's permissible, but sometimes a person can go into extremes regarding that. Going to extreme. For example, they'll say, oh, my child is so beautiful that I have to hide them in the house and not take them out because of the fear of people giving them the evil eye. Now, this is going to extremes. This is going to extremes. Okay, of protecting them from the evil eye. No, we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, and you'll find this later on, inshallah, from the evidences that we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We say the dua for them, or teach them the dua for leaving the house, for example, in the name of Allah, trusting in Allah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, that there's no capability or strength or power except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we teach them the dua, and on top of that we make dua for them from the sunnah. And some of the scholars mentioned that you place your hand on their head and say that dua, and these matters, that you say the dua for the child as protection. So we don't fall into an extreme that we start hiding anything and everything. No. Okay, because what happens, a person can become paranoid with every small thing. Okay, every small thing. Oh, look, my child, he's got a cough. Oh, it's because of some evil eye. Give me some water. You have to get my child to do wudu in that water, or wash my child in that water because you've got envy and so many other matters. No. Subhanallah. We don't find the Salaf, the Sahaba being like that. If you have narrations, bring them. There are no narrations like that, of them being paranoid or anything like that. An issue. What about, not dressing our children in, good clothing and, taking them out and these type of matters, right? As an extension of what the Shaykh is saying, then we don't go to extremes in that matter. We don't go into extremes and become paranoid and become worried and everything. No. This is qadr of Allah Azza wa Jalla. If a child gets sick, if a child gets an ayn, if a child gets a... This is from the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jalla, a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the whole of this life is a test. Okay, so then the Shaykh goes on to talk about, what about wearing a thread with tying some ayat or pages from the Quran onto that and putting them in a leather pouch, and sewing it up and putting that on our children, either on their hands or around their neck, these type of things. The Shaykh says this issue is a matter of different opinion amongst the scholars. It goes, but the apparentness of the hadith show that it's not permissible. It's not permissible to do that. Some people say, well, if it's just a piece of paper with some, words on it, doesn't matter, it's okay. No, sorry, it's not permissible. But if it's with the Quran, then it's permissible. Because it's the Quran, ayat of the Quran, and you're using it as protection. Then here the Shaykh says, no, it's not permissible. That's even though there's a difference of opinion, but the strongest opinion is that it's not permissible. It's not permissible. The Shaykh goes on to say that some of these people, they write the ayat of Quran, or they write the whole of the Quran with very, very small writing, on a very, very small piece of paper, that you could probably only read it with a microscope. And they place it in a small box, or they tie it around the child's neck. And the Shaykh says, along with this being a innovation, to tie it in a small little box or a leather pouch or anything like that, along with this being an innovation, the Shaykh says, this is belittling the Quran al-Kareem. Ihanat al-Quran al-Kareem is belittling and disrespecting the Quran. disrespecting the Quran. Because the Shaykh says that maybe that the child will end up having saliva on top of that, when they wear it around their necks. A child will dribble and it will dribble onto that, okay? The Shaykh says it could become polluted with impurities, yani najasa. The child enters into the toilet area with that, or dirty places. And he said that all of this is belittling the Quran. Belittling the Quran, because we find this amongst especially the communities from the Indian subcontinent, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, these type of places, and even Turkey actually. You'll find that a lot of the Muslims from these places, they wear these amulets and they'll wear these little leather pouches with ayat or little metal, little brass box. I've seen it, little brass box where they'll put ayat and in reality, this is really actually copying the Hindus, who they used to live with. Because India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all these they were one country before. And they've become affected by the Hindus. And the Hindus wear these type of things. And there are many, many cultural practices and religious practices they do that unfortunately those Muslims in those countries have started adopting. And they've adopted those practices as religious practices. For example, one of the innovations that the people do during a marriage ceremony is that they will get the Quran as the new bride enters the husband's house. They'll get the Quran and place it just above her head, not touching her head, just above her head, and she has to walk underneath the Quran when she enters the house of the husband. And this is from the practices of the non-Muslims, the mushrikeen. The Muslims, we don't have this practice from the Sunnah at all. The Quran is a guidance. Quran is meant to be read. So wearing it around your neck, or placing it in your glove compartment, or putting it in front of your car, on the dashboard in front of your car as a form of protection, then this is shirk. This is shirk. These are amulets. The Shaykh says, and with great regret, that some of the people have taken these type of worships as a form of just receiving blessings, faqat, yani only for receiving blessings. They've taken these forms of worship as a forms of seeking blessings. And the next chapter talks about at-Tabarruk, from the trees and rock, where people go and they seek blessings from these type of matters, rocks and trees and graves, and the door of the masjid, or the grave of the person, and these type of things. So the Shaykh says this is with great regret and sadness that some of the people have taken these types of aspects as worship and only for tabarruk. He said, for example, what we see many of the people doing, or some of the people doing, when they go and wipe the Rukn Yamani. When we're doing Umrah or Hajj, when we're making tu'af of the Kaaba, walking around the Kaaba, one of the aspects of the Sunnah is the corner before the black stone is to touch the corner, or to place your hands on that corner. And this is a Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Shaykh says that we see some of the people, they touch the Rukn al-Yamani, the corner before the black stone, and they wipe their faces with it, and they wipe their children and the body or the trunk or the chest of the child, because this means that they've taken it, wiping the Rukn Yamani, the Yemeni corner, as a form of tabarruk, not worship. Because this is something that we do. When we're making tu'af, if we can, without harming or pushing anybody, or causing any harm to anybody, we go towards the corner of the Yemeni corner, and we place our hands or rub the corner with our hands one time, and that's it. Okay? And that's it. But some people, they do that and they rub their hands onto other people. I actually saw a person with my own eyes rub the Kaaba with his hands, a cat walking past. There was a cat that was walking past the Kaaba, because the Masjid al-Haram is in Mecca is all open. There's many doors to it, many windows, and it's very open. Anybody, anything can walk in. You get a lot of pigeons flying in and stuff like that. And there was a cat walking past the Kaaba, and I was on the roof part looking down, and I saw this cat. And a man went up to the cat, started stroking the cat, and then rubbing it on himself. For tabarruk. For tabarruk. He started rubbing the cat, and then he started rubbing the effect, after rubbing the cat, onto his own body. Onto his shoulders, onto his arms, and, as a form of tabarruk, as a form of receiving blessings. And that shows you how ignorant the people are. And then the Shaykh says, وَهَذَا جَهْلٌ, and this is ignorance. Because he said, the Umar ibn Khattab who said to the black stone, indeed I know that you are just a stone. You do not harm nor bring any benefit. If I had not seen the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam kiss you, I would not have kissed you. And this is a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. So it shows us that these aspects, these type of things, have no benefit, no harm. Okay, so wearing amulets with Quran around the neck is not permissible, and we'll see that more in detail. Then the Shaykh goes on to talk about at-Tiwala. At-Tiwala being the Shaykh says it is something that they tie to the husband, and they claim that it causes him to love his wife, or the wife to love the husband. Okay? Or the wife to love the husband. So the husband to love the wife, and the wife to love the husband. The Shaykh said, وَهَذَا شِرْكٌ. This is shirk. This is only partnered with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the Shaykh says, because this is not a means legislated by the Sharia, nor is a means for a natural means for loving someone. Okay, loving someone. Okay, the highest point of loving each other, or a husband loving his wife, is the highest aspect is loving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as Muslims, this is what we should have. We should have love for our wives, or wife for the husband, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because otherwise, when there is love, which there is a natural love, of course, but when there's a love which is natural, or infatuation, a false type of love, then when that person falls short, when the husband falls short or the wife falls short in fulfilling Allah's rulings, the commands of Allah, then the husband or the wife still remains attached to that person. Remains attached. We're not talking about going and getting a divorce straight away just because, he didn't pray his sunnah for Fajr. No. Or he didn't pray his witr. No. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a person who constantly, we're talking about encouraging each other in doing good actions, reminding each other in a nice way, encouraging each other in a nice way, these type of things. We're not talking about a person just runs out and divorces his wife because she didn't get up for Fajr. Yeah, we're not talking about these type of things. Okay, all these matters of the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, matters that we need encouragement in. We need encouragement in. So, the highest point is loving each other for Allah's sake. Loving each other for Allah's sake. The husband and the wife, and the wife and the husband. And the more that a person fulfills the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal, the more that a person follows the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more Allah puts blessing in that marriage. The more that a person fulfills the sunnah, the more that Allah puts blessings in that marriage. Because if a person starts his marriage based upon ma'asiyah, on sins, on sinfulness, the less barakah he's going to have in his marriage. So for example, a person getting married and they want to have music at their wedding. Ya akhi, what are you trying to do? Ya ukhti, what are you trying to do? And you want to start your marital life based upon with sinning? La, this is not the correct way. This is not the correct way. Yes, of course, I understand, that sometimes parents and peer pressure and these type of things, but, you should make it clear to them that, look, you don't like it, you don't want it, and if they go ahead with it, it's not with your happiness. It's not with your happiness, because we need the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a marriage. We need the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when people get married. Then the Shaykh goes on to talk about, likewise, at-Tiwala, this form that they use for causing a husband to love his wife and a wife to love her husband. The Shaykh says, and similar to this is the engagement ring. They call it in Arabic a dubla, okay? Getting an engagement ring. The Shaykh says that person, a man, a spouse buys the ring for marriage, to get married, and they place this on the hand of the partner, the wife or the husband, and if the husband takes off that ring and doesn't wear that ring, then the woman says, "Oh, he doesn't love me." So they believe that this ring causes benefit and causes harm. Okay, this is where it comes down to, that the engagement ring is a form of keeping the husband, or keeping the wife. Okay, that it harms or benefits. They say, the Shaykh says, they say as long as it's in the hand, on the fingers of on the hand of the spouse, the husband, then they still have a strong bond between them. And the opposite is as well, that if he doesn't, then they don't have a strong bond. So the Shaykh says, if this intention is there, then it is shirk al-asghar. It is the lesser shirk of wearing, when we wear this and that person has that intention, then is a lesser shirk. And then the Shaykh went on to say that if that intention is not there, because some of the people say, well, hang on, I'm wearing that, but I don't believe that type of stuff. I'm only wearing it, because it's cultural. It's a sign of my love for her, sign that we're going to get married, so nobody else comes and proposes to me, all that type of stuff. The Shaykh says, if that intention is not there, and he goes, and I don't think, and that the Shaykh says that this is far from being correct. When they wear this type of stuff, they wear it with that intention, with that reason. The Shaykh says, even if that wasn't there, then it is resembling the Christians, because it is taken from them. The Shaykh says it's taken from them. So this aspect of wearing a engagement ring is from the either shirk, asghar, or it's tashabbuh bin nisara, is copying the Christians, imitation of the Christians, because in Islam we don't have these type of things. We don't have these attachments, rather we have trust. We have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A Muslim has to stick by his word. Has to stick by his word. What he says, he has to stick by it. Okay? And that's why a Muslim, he thinks before he says anything. He thinks before he commits himself. A Muslim does these type of things. Why? Because a Muslim realizes that he will be held accountable for what he does. He will be accountable on the Day of Judgment. And that's the whole aspect of being Muslim. And doing good deeds. And being careful of oppressing anybody. That he knows that there is a Day of Judgment. He knows that there's a Day of Judgment, that I will be called to account for what I did and how I lived on this earth. This is very, very important. That's why a Muslim always thinks like that. He doesn't think about just the worldly life. He thinks, how will it be on the Day of Judgment when I stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We're all there and everybody will see, and the truth will come out. The truth will come out. So when a person lies or cheats or deceives or tricks or oppresses anybody on this earth, thinking that they won't get caught, thinking that nobody's going to see him, nobody's going to catch him, nobody's going to get him, on the Day of Judgment, Yawm al-Qiyamah, when we'll be resurrected, we'll be standing in front of Allah and held accountable for our deeds. Held accountable for our deeds. So this is very, very important. That's why A Muslim is careful of any form of abuse. Any form of abuse is very careful. Any form of oppression is very careful. In fact, a Muslim treats other people, whether it's his wife, his children, his work colleagues, relatives, anybody, he treats them better than he treats his own self. Why? Because he doesn't want to be held responsible on the Day of Judgment. He doesn't want to be held responsible on the Day of Judgment, so he treats everybody better than his own self. Better than his own self. He puts them first. He has thoughts and reflections about them, even to small points like driving down the road. Instead of hogging the fast lane, he sees cars coming, he sees that maybe this guy wants to overtake, so he moves over, he drives over into that. This is a small example I'm just giving. But a person is constantly aware of other people's feelings and other people's needs. And this was the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from his companions, he would always ask, where's such and such? Where's such and such? How is such and such? Constantly. And nobody was expendable. He would ask about small children. Where is such and such? How is he? Is he okay? Constantly the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was aware of this. So it shows us the good manners in being aware of these type of things. And then the Shaykh goes on to talk about, and if that ring is from gold, then it's not permissible for men to wear them. Okay, it is one of those matters which has been one of the third matters which is not permissible for men, like silk, etc. So here the Shaykh says, well, it could be from gold, or it's either shirk, or it's copying the Christians. And or the third type, which is that it's not permissible for men. So, for example, wearing gold. Okay. The Shaykh says, well, if these three aspects are not there, that being from gold, or it's copying the Christians, or it's shirk, then it's permissible for a man to wear a ring. Okay, it's permissible for a man to wear a ring. Then the Shaykh goes on to explain the word shirk here in this hadith. The Shaykh says, is it from shirk al-akbar or shirk asghar? The Shaykh says, and that comes down to what the person's intention is, what he wants, what his belief is. Okay, it comes down to what his belief is. Is his belief that he's doing it? If a person believes that he'll take this ring or this amulet or this thing, or to cause his wife to love it, or the ruqya or the amulet, if he says that the musabbab lil muhabba huwa Allah, that the one who causes the love is Allah, but this is a means for it, then the Shaykh says the shirk or asghar. This is shirk or asghar. But the Shaykh said, and if he believes that in itself can affect, then this is shirk al-akbar, shirkun akbar. Okay. The next evidence that the Shaykh brings, Muhammad Abdul-Wahhāb rahimahullah brings, is a narration from Abdullah ibn Ukaym. Okay, Abdullah ibn Ukaym. And this hadith is marfu', it's from the Prophet ﷺ, and Shaykh al-Albani graded it Hasan. The hadith mentions, Man ta'allaka shay'an wukila ilayhi, collected by Ahmad and Tirmidhi. Man ta'allaka shay' wukila ilayhi, whoever attaches and adheres himself to something, then he's left to that. He's left to the guardianship of that thing. Man ta'allaka shay', whoever attaches himself to something. Then here the Shaykh says, so the hadith says, wukila ilayhi, he's left to that. He's left to that. So the Shaykh says in his explanation, Man ta'allaka shay'an, whoever adheres to something, he says, so whoever attaches himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he makes all his desires and his hopes and his fears based upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ whoever trusts in وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ whoever trusts in Allah فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ he is sufficient for him. Surah Talaq, Ayah 3. Meaning, he is sufficient. And that's why the Shaykh said, and this is why the dua of the messengers and their followers, when they were trialed with problems and hardships, they would say, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for us and the best protector or guardian. Best guardian, best protector. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for us, Allah suffices us, and He is the best of guardians and protectors. And this is what the Shaykh said, this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam said when he was thrown into the fire. And this is what what Muhammad and his companions said when the people said to them, Inna an-nas qad jama'u lakum fakhshawhum. Yeah, and the people have gathered against you, so fear them. And they said, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for us and the best of guardians and protectors. Wukila alayhi, here the Shaykh says that the person is connected to that thing. So if a person comes along and he ties an amulet around his neck, or when the wife is giving birth, they tie something to the leg or tie it to the arm. Usually it's to the bicep. They tie an ayat of Quran or an amulet or something. They say, oh, this will lessen the pain of childbirth. Okay, childbirth. So here, yusnid alayhi, yani usnid alayhi, yani you are left to that, or you are connected up to that thing. So you are left to that amulet. You are left to that little leather pouch. You are left to that thread tied around your arm. The Shaykh said, as regards the being attached to other than Allah, the first type is that which negates Tawheed from its foundation. And that is attaching yourself to something which has no effect whatsoever, and relying upon that completely and turning away from Allah. And the Shaykh said the like of this is when the people attach themselves to the worship of graves, like they do. So when they are afflicted with any difficulties or problems, they turn towards these graves. When they are afflicted with some hardship, they say, oh, such and such, save me, rescue me. And the Shaykh said, there is no doubt this is shirkun akbar mukhrij min al-millah. That this is shirk, major shirk, and it takes a person outside of the ummah. And then the Shaykh said the second type is ma yunafi kamal at-Tawheed. So first one is yunafi at-Tawheed min aslihi, it negates Tawheed from its origin. And the second is yunafi kamal at-Tawheed, yani it negates the perfection of Tawheed. Okay, perfection of Tawheed. One is from its foundation, because there are certain things if a Muslim does, from its origin it takes a person outside the fold of Islam. Like this, going to a grave and making shirk with the grave, saying to the inmate of the grave or the person in the grave, saying, rescue me, rescue me. Okay? So that negates Tawheed from its foundation, and that's shirkun akbar. The second one is a perfection of Tawheed, that a person relies upon the means, legislated means, Islamic means, authentic Islamic means, but he is neglectful of the one who actually causes those means. So he is neglectful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, with that, because he doesn't turn his heart towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he carries out that action, a means for rescue and savior, deliverance, but he's neglectful of the one who actually saves him, meaning Allah Azza wa Jal. The Shaykh says, and this is from the type of shirk, and we don't say shirk akbar, okay, because it is a means which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed as a form of cure or deliverance or rescue. The Shaykh said the third type is yata'allaq bi sabab تعلق مجرد لكونه سبب فقط. That a person connects himself up or adheres or attaches himself to a means, okay, just because it's a means, along with relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he believes that the means are from Allah, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to cancel its effects, and if Allah wants to keep those effects from the means that he uses, and that there's no effect from that thing except with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this does not negate Tawheed, not from its perfection, nor from its foundation. And then with this, there is no sin upon that person. No sin upon that person. So there's three types. That which cancels Tawheed from its origin, falls into major shirk. That which negates the perfection of shirk, and that could be shirk asghar, but the Shaykh doesn't actually mention that. He says we don't say that shirk akbar, that which negates perfection of Tawheed. He believes in that it's a legislated means, but he's negligent of the musabbib, the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And third one is that he attaches himself along with the belief that it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Shaykh goes on, Muhammad Abdul-Wahhāb goes on, and he mentions a definition of tama'im, which is something that which people attach to their children to keep them from the ayn. The Shaykh, then Muhammad Abdul-Wahhāb goes on and he says, however, إذا كان معلق من القرآن, if that which you attach, that which they attach is from the Quran, then some of the Salaf allowed it, and some of the others they disallowed it. And those who said it was not permissible was Ibn Mas'ud radhiyallahu anhu, to say that it's not permissible. It is not permissible. But as we know from our scholars who explain these type of things, they explain these matters, they say that it is not permissible. It is not permissible to do that. Even though that, there may be some ikhtilaf amongst the Salaf. Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, he actually brings proof where it's possible it could be, because here, let me read that actually, it's a nice point. Shaykh al-Uthaymeen says, if that which is attached, like an amulet or anything, is from the Quran, or du'as which are permissible, or adhkar, dhikr which is mentioned, then this issue is ikhtilaf amongst the Salaf. From them are those who made it permissible, due to the general saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ, and we reveal from the Quran, مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ, that which is cure, وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and a mercy for the believers. And the Shaykh goes on to say, and it doesn't mention the wasila, the means, how a person can get istishfa from this Quran, how a person can be cured from this Quran. So it indicates that any form of means which a person uses like this is permissible. Just like the Quran is a medicine, a tangible medicine. And he goes, and then from them are those who say it's not permissible to attach parts of the Quran for a cure. They say that istishfa bil Quran and has been mentioned in a specific form, which is reading it. He says that you read upon the sick person. So we don't go above that, we don't go past that, we don't do innovate anything like that. If we place the Quran in a form which is not being mentioned, then it shows that we have done something which has not been mentioned in the Sharia. Shaykh al-Uthaymeen says, and the author, Muhammad Abdul-Wahhāb, mentions that Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu prohibited it. Okay. He said that if a person felt that he goes that if a person didn't attach themselves to these type of things, then maybe you feel that it's okay. But the Shaykh says that this is not correct. The Shaykh says the closest that we can say is that it's not befitting to tie parts of the Quran as a seeking of cure, because this negates the holiness of the Quran, the sacredness of the Quran. For example, somebody wearing that around their neck and they're doing ghiba, gossip, backbiting, or entering into a toilet, or either where he wears it and that he can do without the ruqyah, he can do without reading the Quran, he doesn't have to do that. Then these are all forms, of matters which are not correct. The Shaykh says, for example, somebody ties Ayat al-Kursi onto his chest, the ayah in Surah Baqarah. So he says that as long as the Ayat al-Kursi is tied to his chest, around his neck, then he doesn't have to read it. So he leaves that which is permissible for something which he's trying to make permissible. And then he feels that he can do without that, because he has the Quran, attached to his chest. And the Shaykh goes on to mention some other points about how that, maybe a child is sleeping and wets his bed, and that urine goes onto that. So, there's many different forms that the Shaykh mentions that these are not permissible. Then Muhammad Abdul-Wahhāb mentions what is ruqyah and at-Tiwala, like we mentioned before. Ruqyah is something which is read, and at-Tiwala is a form of magic which is used for a person to love his wife, and a wife to love the husband. Then the Muhammad Abdul-Wahhāb goes on and he brings a statement, an evidence, which is collected by Imam Ahmad on Ruwayfi', who said that he said that the Messenger of Allah said to me, Ya Ruwayfi', in perhaps your life will be long. فَأَخْبِرَ النَّاسِ, tell the people that whoever ties his beard, he knots his beard, or he gets a necklace from the bowstring, or he cleans his private part with the dung of an animal or a bone, فَإِنَّ مُحَمَّدًا بَرِيءٌ مِّنْهُ, فَإِنَّ مُحَمَّدًا is free from that person, far away from this person. And this hadith, Shaykh al-Albani authenticated this hadith, and it's narrated by Imam Ahmad and others as well. So this narration says, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Ruwayfi', he said to Ruwayfi', perhaps your life will be long. Tell the people, inform the people, whoever ties his beard, because the Shaykh al-Uthaymeen says, because the Arabs never used to shave their beards or cut their beards, as is mentioned in the Sunnah. But they used to have their beards, and they used to regard it as something as great, and of having a beard, and they used to be arrogant and proud about that. And also they used to tie their beards, as Shaykh al-Uthaymeen mentions, they used to tie up their beards, not their beards, fearing the evil eye. Because if he had a long beautiful beard and he tied it up, then Shaykh says why it's not permissible is because if a person has a good beautiful beard and he ties it up, then it does not look beautiful. And whoever ties his beard and knots his beard, into plaits or into and tying it up, okay, and then the Messenger ﷺ is free from that person, is far away from that person, meaning that the Prophet ﷺ doesn't want anything to do with that person. The Shaykh goes on to say that some of the people, to protect them from the evil eye, they even go to the extent that when they say they go to a restaurant and some food is brought to them, they take a little bit of that food and they throw it on the floor as a means of protecting them from the evil eye. And the Shaykh there, this is a belief which is fasid, yani evil, and it is opposing the saying of the Messenger ﷺ that if a morsel of food falls, if one of you has a morsel of food that falls on the floor, then he should pick it up, wipe off the dust or the dirt, and he should eat it, as is mentioned in Sahih Muslim. So these forms of protection from the evil eye, like tying the bed or throwing the food, these are all not permissible. Then taking the string of the bow and arrow, the bow, taking the string of the bow and using that as a means of barakah or means of protecting protection from the evil eye, and he ties it to his animal, to the sheep or to the goat or to the camel, then this is not permissible. This is also from shirk. And then the Shaykh goes on to mention about this, the hadith which says doing istinja, yani cleaning yourself after defecating, after using the bathroom, using something which is like the dung of an animal, this is not permissible. Okay, or using bones of an animal. Says there's a dead animal and there's just bones left over there. Someone uses that bone to clean himself. Like, for example, a person's out in the desert, outside in the desert, in the countryside, and he's got nothing to clean himself with. He uses these type of things, and these are not permissible because the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever does this, that whoever does this, then Muhammad is far away from that person. The next evidence is from Sa'id ibn Jubair radiallahu anhu, who said, whoever cuts off a tamima from insan, then it's like as if he has freed a slave. Now, obviously in those days, at the time of the companions and the tabi'een and atba' tabi'een, it was well known, the knowledge was well widespread about these type of things. But in our time nowadays, people don't know about these things. They're very ignorant of these things, of wearing necklaces with attachments of Quran or some religious words or some Arabic writing. Then obviously we have to educate these people. We have to educate them. And more than likely, when you speak to them and you explain to them, they'll take it off. Alhamdulillah, Allah's blessed the Muslims that when you advise them, they usually take that advice. So whoever breaks off a tamima from a person, then it's as if he's freed a slave. He's freed a slave. The great reward for doing that. But obviously we have to remember that we have to educate the people. And then there's a narration from Ibrahim where he mentions that they used to hate, there's probably Ibrahim al-Nakhai, I think. Ibrahim al-Nakhai, Shaykh al-Uthaymeen mentions Ibrahim al-Nakhai from the tabi'een. And he said, كانوا يكرهون التمائم كلها من القرآن وغير القرآن. That they, meaning the companions, and he's talking about the companions of Ibn Masud radhiyallahu anhu, because they were at the same time as Ibrahim al-Nakhai, and he used to be from his companions of Abdullah ibn Masud radhiyallahu anhu. He said that they used to hate, they used to dislike and hate all types of tama'im, all types of amulets, whether they're from the Quran or from other than the Quran. Okay, whether from the Quran or other than the Quran. So it shows us the practice of the Salaf was that they disliked and hated these things, and especially when it comes to yani, a person attaching himself to these things, to these matters, these amulets and these type of things. By that, alhamdulillah, by Allah's blessings, we've come to the end of that chapter, Bab ma ja fi ruqa wa tama'im. And inshallah, in the next lesson, we'll move on to the chapter of seeking blessings from trees or stones, etc. Jazakumullahu khairan for listening. May Allah reward the dear brothers and sisters who work behind the scenes to spread the correct da'wah of Tawheed and educate the Muslims. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah reward